Okay, let's do this again. Here's a character from Star Trek. Now, does this look familiar at all to any of you? I mean, let's look and see what we see here. Admiral Akbar from Star Wars. Okay, there's one. Now, you want to say he's not taking things from people? Let's do another one here. Another creature from Star Trek. Okay, now change his eyes a little bit, change his mouth a little bit. You know, let's just do a quick comparison here. Not a lot of difference is there really if you just change the eyes and move the spikes to the center of the head. Let's do another one. How about one of your favorites? You think he just made this up? You think he really did? Come on. He's a plagiarist. That's what he does. You want to see? Yeah, the Voynich manuscript. Creature looks a lot similar, doesn't he? Not just a little, a lot. When you look at Yoda's hands, whenever he had them spread out, look. How about dancing green ladies, huh? Let's check that out. Oh, another dancing green lady. Ula the Twi'lek from Star Wars. Okay, here's another one. The Bartini Beriev VVA-14 was a Russian prototype submarine hunter. It could take off and land on water. That's what the reason for the pontoons on the sides of the wings were for. And they actually built 2 prototypes before the collapse of the Soviet Union. Boom, here's a picture of one of the actual models right next to, what is that, the Millennium Falcon? It looks kind of similar, doesn't it? Kind of, doesn't it? Very similar. That craft was 1972. 1972, 3 years before Star Wars, or excuse me, 5 years before Star Wars came out. Throw a little deal with the devil, right, George? Huh? That's not all. And just so you know, Gustav Holst completed his Planet Suite in the year 1918, long before Star Wars was ever thought of. So if you think he took it from Star Wars, you're wrong. Let's not also forget Lee Brackett, who George Lucas barely mentioned in the credits of Empire Strikes Back, and she ghost wrote Star Wars. He gave her 0 credit for it. Anyway, what makes it so hard for you to believe that this piece of stole Jedi Knights of the Force from a 7-year-old kid? And then when I remembered in 1999, I started to remember. I didn't really remember fully until around 2000. This was me when I was just a little older than 7, a year or so later. He not only stole Jedi Knights of the Force from me, but he had someone watching me. Now, I can prove that too. Bob Frederick told me he was from the FBI, okay? Now, this piece of paper is a copy from my memory because I held the piece of paper in my hand in the year 2000, me and my mother, from when I was 7, and we lived in West Palm Beach, Florida. You think he didn't steal that from this little kid? Think again, because you're about to see some more. Here, let me go back to it and show you again. This car was supposed to look like the Batmobile because my dad rebuilt a Cadillac that my mother took to Florida, West Palm Beach, in 1974. That document sleeve not only held that, it held my medical records, a little immunization book I had that looked a lot like this one, but it's not the same one. I just copied that one off the internet. So, I have witnesses. My brother remembers me going in the house in 1974 in West Palm Beach, Florida, and he said he thought it was stupid. Nobody's going to steal that thing. And here's the date of when he first said that. So here's 2015. So that shows you that I've been talking about this for over 7 years that you can see. Now I have another witness, someone who worked for George Lucas in 2005. Said he overheard him say he took it from a kid. And then I said I was going to leave Facebook, or YouTube, and he sent me whoever, he or she. I don't know if it's a he or she. But you know, you can't lie to everybody, George. There's there's beings out there and you can't threaten them and you can't silence them. So you can't silence everybody. The truth is going to slowly come out. Again, here he had the Bedford Police Department try to arrest me. Bob Frederick, again, the one that I told you, he told me he was the FBI. He said Frederick represents a security firm doing an investigation on Ivan Troy Vincent, a resident of Bedford who has been sending threatening and annoying correspondences to filmmaker George Lucas. Let me read you one of those threatening letters I sent to him.
Dear Mr. Lucas, I also wanted to say that I am getting married next week. I hope we can do something about this before then. It would be nice to feel like I'm really starting anew, but with this old monkey on my back, I don't think it will feel as right. I did put protective measures in order, so I hope that's not how you plan to resolve this. But I really think you're not the bad guy, you were just misled. Anyway, I have a lot of more books I'm going to write in the future. Some really awesome stuff. Maybe you'll be interested. ?
Okay, and here's the date. 11/6/2001. I first started remembering in 2000 and started writing him late 2000, 2001. Here you see Jack Hamburger, 5707 Robinwood Road. And if you look above, it says Riata Boulevard begins. Riata Courts on one side, Riata Boulevard's on the other. Here's a map, okay, actual figured, literal map. And you can see my house and his house. Jack Hamburger's and my house. Okay, 5513 Riata was my father, Conrad Vincent, and 5707 Robinwood Road was Jack Hamburger. And again, here's another angle, another shot, and I have tons of these, believe me, I can go on with these. Again, here I'll show you Jack Hamburger, 5707 Robinwood Road. Conrad Vincent, 5513. Lisa Bell was the girl who was standing in the front yard with me. That's her dad, Benjamin Bell, straight across the street from me. Here's another picture. Now, do you think this man's honest? You're really kidding yourself. He is not. He's a corrupt piece. I won't say it again. He's corrupt and he's a plagiarist. All he does is steal from other people. He tried to have me arrested, and I think Bob Frederick not only investigated me, but he was listening to me, because that document sleeve I showed you earlier in this video vanished along with the piece of evidence I had, because when me and my mother pulled it out in 2000, I said, "What is this?" And she said, "My nephew Davey drew it," but it was stored in my document sleeve. And as I told you, in 99, she first started telling the story about me falling on a Tinker Toy, which did not happen. I still did not remember the whole story. Then I said, "That's not what happened." The boy pointed rebar at my face, Jack Hamburger. And then we pulled that piece of paper out a few months later after I had gone to Port St. Lucie, Florida, and come back to Louisville. We were going through my mother's paperwork. And then I pulled it out and still didn't remember the whole story until I got to Ohio, where I live now. And we moved to Bedford. That was the first place we moved. That was the place where the Bob Frederick came. I believe they were listening to me. I believe they were tapping my phones. I believe they found the location of that evidence, because my first video I first made was in 2014. Prior to that, no one knew of the existence of that piece of paper. And you saw that I had written in that letter that I knew there was something that I had, protective measures, right, that I sent to him. Then all of a sudden, my whole sleeve was gone. When I went down in 2015, it was gone. The whole sleeve. Both my brothers are still there. This guy's a crook, and I hope Disney got it, and they're the ones, and the reason he sold them Star Wars is because they blackmailed him, because it would be just desserts for him. Karma. What comes around goes around. Hey, George. And one more quick thing. You remember where I said, "But I really think you're not the bad guy, you were just misled"? What I was referring to was that when after Jack almost killed me with that rebar, And then I remembered an incident when I got hit in the head with a ball bat in his backyard. I turned around and hit my brother. I had asked my brother, after Jack almost killed me with the rebar, if he was the one who hit me in the head with a bat that day. And he said no. So I was angry, and I saw Jack Hamburger on the corner, and I threw a rock from my house all the way to the corner and hit him in his head and busted his head. His parents were calling the police on me, and my dad took me over there and made me apologize while I'm sitting there trying to tell my dad, stick, because I didn't know the word for rebar. Anyway, nonetheless, he almost killed me with that rebar, so I busted his head. So George might have thought I was a bad kid for busting his cousin's head with a rock, when in fact his cousin almost killed me once and hurt me another time with a ball bat. So right here, I'm going to list all the kids who were there that day. Tara and Kelly Payne. You can see their mom, Cordelia, at the top. Lisa Bell, whose dad was Benjamin Bell. And then, of course, me and my two brothers, David and Vince. Here's Tara and Kelly Payne's house. Benjamin Bell's 5510. I'll show you that one. And then I'm straight across the street from her at 5513. And there's my dad's house, 5513, straight across the street from, almost straight. It was kind of a little bit diagonal, a little bit slightly, but then the last one is Jack Hamburger, 5707 Robinwood Road. He was listed as number 1. I'm number 2. Lisa Bell's 3, and Tara and Kelly Payne are 4. And as I said earlier, I was playing Pirates in the front yard one day, and my friend Lisa Bell, Jack Hamburger, my two brothers David and Vince, Tara and Kelly Payne, who were my friends from down the street, we were all in the front yard when I said Jedi Knights in the Force. His cousin Jack Hamburger heard it, went and told George about it, and then George had him coming to my house every day to try to get me to come over to Jack's house and get on the phone. And that same day is the day he almost killed me with the rebar. Anyway, if you don't believe the story, that's too bad. You'll find out in the end that you're wrong. So nonetheless, I don't think it made any difference to him, because he was just trying to find out who knew on the phone, who else knew about Jedi Knights in the Force. He just wanted to steal it from me. He never had any intention of keeping his word, telling me he was going to make me rich and famous. He's a fraud, a plagiarist, and a liar. I do want to ask all of you all a serious question. If his cousin Jack Hamburger had managed to kill me that day, and I was the only one who really knew, and my brothers were not really paying attention, and then you died later on, you find out all this stuff was true that you never knew in life, how would you feel about it afterwards? I mean, this is a question of morality. I mean, would you have cared then? Would you have cared if you found out if his cousin had killed me and then you never knew that he stole Jedi Knights in the Force from me? Would it have bothered you then? Just a question. Oh, wait. Did you think I was done yet? No. Let me tell you another story, okay? As I told you before, my father took us to see Star Wars in 1977, at which point when Obi-Wan was in the cave with Luke and he said something about him and his father both being Jedi Knights, I had said that to my father. Isn't that mine? And he said, no, son, that's his. So I put it out of my head until 1999. Now, between those times, in 1988 and 89, I was writing a book called The Rod of Iron. And for the reason I'm about to tell you, it is now listed on my book of list of books that I'm writing or going to rewrite. Some of them are being rewritten. And just to prove to you, here, let me stop this for a second. Okay, now this book, Time Upon Time, I wrote in 96, and I was working on a second book in 97 called The Return to Atlantis. And they were both mentioned in a magazine article done about me. I did not mention my previous books, except that I mentioned that I think I mentioned that I once wrote a book on reality. In between that is when I was working on The Rod of Iron, which I never finished Rod of Iron, so I never could really state that I wrote another book when I hadn't in fact finished it. What I did do was I wrote a short story version of it, and I sent it to Lucasfilm, which I later found out was a mistake. And now you remember, at this point, I still didn't remember what happened in 1974. I still didn't remember that George Lucas had stolen Jedi Knights in the Force from me already. I didn't even know. I didn't remember it. I thought maybe he'd be interested in this story, which I'll explain to you exactly what it is. And I don't really like sharing the my book information before I've written a book or published it. But to make you understand, my character was supposed to be like Jesus, or somewhere between him and, say, like Paul Muad'Dib from Dune. Of course, I had never even seen Dune until the mid-90s, or knew anything about it. But I had already started writing The Rod of Iron in 88. And he was going to be more like a powerful being, or like a wizard almost. And so I couldn't decide on the name, and The Rod of Iron is finally what I stuck with, because in the Bible it talks about when Jesus returns, he would rule with a rod of iron, which might have made some Christians mad, but it was the point of trying to take a fresh look at what if Jesus came back and he could do all these things, if he could walk through walls, if he could fly, which I think it's still possible that he might possibly be able to do all those things anyway, because he's the Son of God, right? And so he took it. Lucasfilm, I sent a copy of the short version of Rod of Iron to Lucasfilm. I got it back. I got back a letter. Let's say I got back a letter from Lucasfilm, and that's the reason I'm going to show you this picture. Now, this picture is of the letterhead. It's the same letterhead I got in 88, 89 when I wrote that short version story to them of Rod of Iron. And I got a letter back that says we don't accept unpublished material, but they did not send my short story back. They never sent the story back. They kept it. So I do believe that it was used in a few different movies. One being the Warlock. The second was Ghost, because of his abilities to walk through walls and make things move and stuff like that while you could see. So it was like the same thing. It was like almost the same thing. But Warlock crossed with Ghost, and then the last one is I used to have this dream about this girl. Okay, I did a video about this previously called. It was originally called It Gets Worse 2.0, because that's when I first discussed that they had also taken this book and used it, and the dream about this girl. Okay, this dream, really, I had it for 20 years just about before it stopped, and I don't know why it stopped. It did. It stopped when I got married. I didn't have it a few years before I got married, but it was about this cabin in the woods, and I would always see the same girl there, and we had like some exotic cats, and I drew pictures of it, drew pictures of her, and I included some of that story in that short version of Rod of Iron. Well, you ever see Cocoon? Whenever the alien girl, what's her name, shows Jack the vision of his future, and she puts his hand over his head, and then he sees. That's exactly what I saw, except I came in from the other side. There was these little wooden bridges. I crossed over the middle one, and then I walked up the path a bit. I could see the house in front of me, and off to my right, I could see her standing on the boat dock down on my right. So in the vision, she shows him, he's coming in by the boat dock to go up to the front of the house. So it's like almost reverse, except the house was a little different, and there was a big cage there, which had exotic cats in it. Past that, it was almost precisely what I dreamed. So I put that in a video called It Gets Worse 2.0, but I changed the name now. It's called The Dream of Red-Haired Amy. So because one time in the dream she said her name, and I thought she said Amy, so I've always kind of put it on there. And after my wife just passed away, I thought I'd just keep it that way. Maybe I could find this person. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she's real. Maybe she's not. Maybe it's just a dream. But it doesn't change the fact that he stole again. See, he stole from me in 74. He stole from me in 89. He used the Rod of Iron to in parts of it in Cocoon 2, in Warlock, and in Ghost. He has been stealing forever. I don't know how many people he's probably stolen from, because at this point I can't even begin to think I'm the only one. So And not just to show you the evidence. I've already shown you that he's been plagiarizing people's works for years, but now I also have this evidence of mine that he's been stealing from me. And you all think this man is great. I'm sorry. Anybody who's a big Star Wars junkie, you are in for a rude awakening. And I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you. I liked Star Wars when it first came out, and even though I was like sit there and go, isn't that mine? And I forgot all about it. I did not remember it. And I followed those movies for years. I went and seen every one until Phantom Menace. That was in, I think, 98. And then 99 is when I started to remember. And after that, I would never go see another one. I started to hate Star Wars just because of what I know about it. And unfortunately, it's sad. If he would come out and had told the truth, I probably wouldn't feel the same about it. But I do, because now I know that it's corrupt. And after what he did also with the Rod of Iron, I had no respect for George Lucas or Lucasfilm, and I have even less for Disney, because I told them ahead of time before they bought it, or as soon as I found out. Maybe they had already bought it, but I told them. They never looked into it, never investigated, never did anything. I don't respect Disney. I don't respect George Lucas. I don't like Star Wars. I don't watch Star Wars anymore. I used to like them. I loved the first three. That was like my three favorite movies. Star Wars, and I liked. I think I liked Edward Scissorhands when it came out, and some of my favorite movies, Cocoon, and it just, now I can't stand to watch them, it just ruined me on them. Anyway, The Rod of Iron, the book I wrote on reality, Time Upon Time, and Return to Atlantis, the partial script, were all burned in a fire. But anyway, that was a magazine article done about me, and this, in parentheses, is the review I got for that book, Time Upon Time. And I mentioned the book Rod of Iron in both of these videos, so go back and look at them. Y'all take care.